Welcome to another episode of Thrivers Ed. This is a special one because I have my friend Lindsey joining us today. Lindsey Burns has been a photographer in Dallas, Texas for 15 years. For the last 6 years, she's specialized in boudoir photography and has a passion for empowering women to embrace their unique beauty and cultivate positive body image. Through her tasteful, feminine, and sexy boudoir photography, Lindsey creates a safe space for women to reconnect with themselves and rediscover their confidence. With a deep belief in the power of mindset, she helps her clients shift perspectives and celebrate their bodies exactly as they are. Welcome to the show, Lindsey.
Thank you so much, Marcy. I'm so excited to be here with you.
I am so excited to have you. I love what you do and I can't wait to dive into it. My first question for you actually is, how did you end up in boudoir photography?
I know. And that's like a question that I get so much because no one really wakes up and is like, I'm going to be a boudoir photographer one day.
I'm sure some men do, but I don't.
It fell in my lap and I didn't realize how much I needed it in my life. And that's part of how I fell in love with it. So, like you said, like I've been a photographer for 16 years, actually started in the wedding industry. And one of my brides asked me if I would shoot a session for her. And I was like, okay. So that's how it came to me as bridal boudoir, which is often, what people think of when they think of boudoir. And I did a session for her and I had no idea what to expect. I'm like, I can pump someone up. Like I can make people feel good. I've always been known that way as a photographer, but I had no idea what that experience was going to be like for her and for me. And I got a little taste of it, seeing her coming in so nervous and then walking out feeling like she could take on the world. And I was like, what have I just unlocked here? Wow, what is this? And I was like, okay, I don't think I'm done with this. I started offering it to other brides and whatnot. Same thing. Nervous as can be, walking out feeling amazing. And to be honest, I got a little jealous. I was like, I kind of want to do this, But I had a lot of insecurities. And I think I felt like, oh, well, good for them. Like I can make them feel good. But something switched when I finally did my own session. And I mean, no surprise, I experienced what they did. And I was like, this is powerful. This is an amazing thing that's almost hard to put into words sometimes. And so I just fell in love with it and just wanted to empower other women. And so my own experience really, kind of started that for me.
Awesome. So you kind of mentioned that people, of course, I can expect this would be the case, that they get really nervous in the beginning and it just kind of
Yeah.
switches. Like, what is that process like? How exactly does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, it is so common. When I talk to people on the phone, like phone consult beforehand, I'm like, it's okay. It's okay that you feel nervous, like that literally makes you a normal human being. This feels out of your comfort zone. Everything in your body is saying, don't do it. Don't do it. This is scary. This is scary. But all of the magic happens outside of our comfort zone. Like that's true about anything, anywhere where you want to grow, if you push yourself out of your comfort zone, there's something good for you there. And so I've seen that happen. Everyone is always nervous, and I just tell them it's okay. You're going to feel nervous. Don't let that scare you. Get comfortable with knowing like you're going to have a little bit of nervous energy. And then by the end of it, they're like, I don't even know why I was nervous. And I'm like, see, you showed up for yourself. You don't have to feel perfect. You don't have to have reached some goal weight. This is about showing up for yourself, even when it feels a little scary and uncomfortable. And then just fully being able to embrace yourself in a way that you didn't think you could. And that's really what's powerful.
I just love your approach, that reminding people that they don't have to be this perfect size, that sexy
Yeah.
isn't a size, it's a mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I can
Mm-hmm.
understand that that would keep a lot of women held back. I mean, women, men, whatever, held back from doing this because we have this ideal of what we're supposed to look like. But you mentioned that you take a positive body image approach to this. How would you define a positive body image?
Yes, this is so important. A lot of times people think like a positive body image is like directly correlated to like your physical health. So like if I'm in good shape and I finally have reached my goal weight, then I can be happy. Then I can look at myself and look in the mirror and be like, I like what I see. I feel good about my body. And that's what our culture teaches us. But in actuality, a positive body image is not about your body. It's really just about your perception of your body. Your body's going to change. I tell people this all the time. Like, your weight is going to fluctuate, your worth is not. Like, you can own that and be grounded in that. You can be at an unhealthy weight and know, like, okay, I need to take more control of my health. I need to do things X, Y, and Z, and still have a good body image, in the sense that you're not shaming yourself, you're not comparing yourself, you know? And
Mhm.
so it's really counterintuitive, because again, our culture is so not helpful in a lot of that.
So then how do we get there? How, if I'm going to come in with just that kind of negativity of thinking, I really want to do this. I would love to be able to have these photos of myself, but I want to wait until those wrinkles are gone. I need to get rid of that cottage cheese in my leg or whatever the things are there. Like, how do we cross that chasm? How do we get towards that accepting that positive body image?
Man, that's a great question. And it's a journey. It's not like you suddenly arrive and you're like, I love everything about my body. Because again, like, having a positive body image isn't, hey, I love everything about my body. It's believing your body is good regardless of how it looks. And so, like, we can make small shifts in our mind that help us go from just focusing on how we look and thinking that that is what makes us good enough, and that's what makes it, is good enough for X, Y, and Z, to being like, hey, my body is good regardless of how it looks. And it can be little things like, when you work out, not being like, oh, well, it's because I ate too many carbs, like, I've got to work out. That's more of like punishment vibes. We want to, like, work out to celebrate what our body is capable of. And having, like, goals in the gym is amazing. I'm not against that at all. But keeping those goals focused on what your body can do, versus like, I need to lose XX, that kind of thing, I think helps you develop more of a positive, mindset towards your body. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And I feel like you probably have your own tactics just in that space of doing your boudoir photography. You're not going to, like you said, completely change someone's positive body image or completely make
Yes.
it into a positive image. But I'm sure that there are tactics or things that you do to really get your clients comfortable. Can you share some of those?
Yeah. I mean, I've worked so hard to just, it's a vulnerable thing, someone trusting you. And I really just try to walk them through it, take such good care of them, and really provide, like, genuine, like, encouragement. Like, I want them to see what other people see in them. I have so many women that come to me that are like, oh my gosh, my husband thinks I'm so sexy, he thinks everything is amazing, but I have all this cellulite and I've had 3 kids and this and that, and I just don't see what he sees, and I just so badly want to see what he sees. And when I'm able to show them a photo and it, like, clicks, they're like, oh, is that you? Yeah, it's you. Like, that's truly amazing.
So do you find more of your clients come to you for that own shift for themselves, or they're doing this more of that kind of gift? Like, I know you mentioned before of that wedding photography, and that's kind of what I
Yeah.
imagine is like presenting this as a gift. But if it's not, is it more often that you find it's really just for themselves and for their own, confidence levels?
Yes. A lot of people will have, like, a milestone in their life or a big event or, like, something that kind of inspires them to be like, hey, you know what? I'm not getting any younger. Like, I should just do the damn thing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not getting any younger. Like, my body's going to keep changing. Like, I'm tired of letting stuff like this stop me from showing up,
Yeah.
And a lot of people sit on it for years and they're like, oh, maybe you do that one day. And then finally, like, screw it, I should just do it. But to answer your question, I think a lot of times the stereotype is that, like, boudoir is a gift that women often do for men. But in actual, and sometimes it is, and that's great. I just call that kind of like a cherry on top. Like, we know he's going to love it. He doesn't, like, need that big of a transformation in his life like she does.
Yeah.
But when a woman, like, sees herself in a new way, that trickles over into everything. Like, and so a lot of times it'll start as a gift for him, And then they're like, oh, snap, I didn't know I needed this in my life. Like, that's how it was for me. Like, when I did that first session, I was
Mm.
so nervous. I was like, I'm just going to do it for my husband, who was like, will you do it? That would be so fun, you know? And I was like, okay, I'll just do it for him, you know? And then I was like, oh my gosh, what? I finally like saw myself in a way where I wasn't nitpicking myself. I just was like in awe. And I hadn't experienced that before.
I love that. I love the idea of doing it for yourself. It is a gift to yourself. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have to wait to have that perfect partner that we're going to give
Yep.
things to, or until our thighs are smaller, we have a gap, or blah, blah, with this, that, and the other. Like, now is the time to do it. Like you mentioned, like, you're just going to get older. Things are going to change. So do it now. You know, you can do it again when your body changes later. So I
Yeah.
really love that approach of doing it for yourself. And I could see that that would lead to a really big transformation. And I want to kind of dive into that transformation a little bit.
Yeah.
So we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, where people are coming to you, they're really nervous, and then afterwards they're like, damn, I look good. Like, what does that transformation look like? Do you have any client stories, anything memorable where you can kind of remember that, like, this person, it really transformed it for them?
Oh, yes. Like, this is okay. So here's one of my favorite client stories. So I had someone who was doing a session. She had told her husband, you know, sometimes people wait and it's a surprise, so they don't know. This in this instance, you know, he knew that she was doing it. She was really nervous, really, really, really nervous. Um, and part of the experience that I have created involves them getting to see the photos the same day, which really adds to the confidence boost. So, anyways, we had finished the session. She'd seen all the photos, and her husband called, and she was like, oh, he's calling. I got to take this. I was like, go for it. And she answers the phone, and he's like, how was it, babe? How are you? And she just like practically like wanted to scream off the rooftop. She was like, I am so hot. And I just hear him like laughing on the other end. And then he goes, but I tell you that all the time. And she goes, no, 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 no. You don't understand. Like, you've been telling me that, but I didn't believe that. Like, now I get it. And like, for me, that's the heart of everything that I do. You can only piggyback on someone else's compliments. You know, you really can. And that's how I used to feel. Like, what happens when that person leaves your life? What happened? You know, that's not authentic. That's just you borrowing, you know, from them. It's so powerful. And like, I could think of so many other stories, but that one just always gets me because the way she was like, no, I get it. Like, she was just full ownership of that. And I just love that.
I love the way you phrase that of, you know, if this image or this perception of yourself is based on other people, like, they can leave you, they might disappear, you know, those
Mm-hmm.
opinions, people's opinions of you change, but when it's based on your own self, it changes kind of how you show up in the world. You know, you also
Absolutely. And you have
mentioned
control over that.
absolutely, and it
Yeah.
it trickles out, like you mentioned before, that it goes into other areas of your life. So I'm curious, is that something that you've experienced or you've seen your clients where that empowering attitude of like, damn, I got this, where it's kind of showing up in those other areas?
Oh yeah, I've jokingly said it's a disclaimer on your session. Like, beware, you know, this confidence may cause you to try other things and wonder, like, where else in my life have I put myself in a box and said, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough, tall enough, skinny enough. I mean, it could be anything, old enough, like whatever it is. Like, you start to be like, wow, I did that. And I didn't think that I could do that. And I think that's true about anything that you do out of your comfort zone. It starts to give you momentum to be like, oh my gosh, I think I want to try something else, you know? Yeah. So I've seen, like, even in myself, like, yes, Boudoir has increased like my confidence as far as like body image, but it's also just helped me in general feel more confident and want to take more risks and like try new things. So it's amazing how something that we kind of just assume might, you know, fit one part of your life can really overflow into others. And I love that about it.
I think it's just so special. And I think honestly, it feels like a treat for yourself. Like, this is, I mean, you actually are treated. I know that the clients that go to you are really treated, just, you know, just like top quality with the hair and the makeup and just the hype
Yeah.
girl behind all of it. So
Yeah.
I know that they get top quality behind that. So it feels like a treat, but I also, at the same time, as I hear you talking about this, it feels like a necessity. right? So you
Mhm.
talked about kind of all of the ways that you put yourself in a box. You're too old, too small, too young, too tall, too fat, too thin, too whatever. But a lot of those messages are not coming from you, right? They're coming from society. They're coming from all the social media that we consume.
Yes.
And so I think your message is just so important to empower women to say that just because that this is the ideal on all those fashion magazines or beauty magazines doesn't
Hmm.
mean that that is what beauty equals. That the beauty
Hmm.
is you, regardless of the size that you're there, because it influences how you show up. And so I just think it's just a really strong message. Not that everybody needs to go out and have a boudoir photography, but I can just see how important that is, really, whatever it is that we're doing to promote that message of you are enough. I don't need to have these messages
Hmm.
from society telling me all the ways I'm wrong or missing things. I have those things in my head already. So yeah, I just absolutely love that about your approach to this. It's not just pretty pictures. It is changing that
Absolutely.
mindset behind it.
Absolutely. I always joke that I'm really just a therapist with a camera. Like,
All right. So, what are some of the most common fears or challenges that you see when you first start working with clients, and then how do you help them overcome those?
yeah. I mean, there's a lot there. And I mean, I've got people that have dealt with body dysmorphia and they're like, "Hey, I I don't have an accurate view of myself at all." Um, and I think that's more common, honestly, than is talked about. I think that's something that people feel like so ashamed to talk about, but I guarantee you, like every woman knows at least someone who's been like touched by that or eating disorders, all of those kinds of things. But that is a common thing that I have had clients that have told me. But they step out like out of their comfort zone, like, hey, I want to do this. And then it's it's so powerful for them to like have that aha moment. So that is a big struggle. People think like, oh, I'm not going to know how to pose. I'm not going to know what to do. I'm not sexy. I could never do that. I'm not. I mean, a lot of it's like comparison, they've decided what this ideal is of who this is for. And then they've just lowered themselves and lied and told the story, to themselves. And, so I try to help them see, and you said it earlier, I say this all the time, like sexy is a mindset. It has nothing to do with size. Like, again, our culture tells us that it's very much so aligned with size. People think like, oh, I'm not a size 2 or 4 or whatever. I could never do this. And I'm like, no, this isn't for this perfect woman that you've decided exists, because spoiler alert, she doesn't. It's like this is for you. If you wish you felt more confident, girl, you're in the right place. Every person who walks through my door feels nervous, out of their comfort zone. But if you show up for yourself and you commit, I mean, honestly, I always tell people like the hardest part of the session, or really, I mean, this is true about probably a lot of things out of your comfort zone. It's like the hardest part isn't usually doing that thing, it's making the commitment to yourself. And we've got to get better at like keeping promises to ourselves.
Absolutely.
And this is like a really powerful way to say, I'm going to show up for myself. And I had someone who told me she was like about to barf in her car, like beforehand. She
Mm-hmm.
was so nervous. And she comes in and I'm like, it's gonna be fine. Don't worry. And she goes, I almost canceled like 3 times. And I was like, well, like what made you come? I'm glad you did, but what made you come? And she's like, I knew I needed to show up for myself. I knew that where I was feeling my worst right now, my most vulnerable, my most worried, that it would mean the most to me if I showed up and did it anyways. I was like,
Oh, wow. That's so
like I
powerful.
would cry. Like it's girl, it's way more than just photos. Like it's good stuff.
Yeah, to touch on a point that you kind of addressed there with that commitment, it is so easy to have these goals and dreams or trying to set up habits that we want to pursue, but without that
Yeah.
commitment behind it, it can be really hard to follow through. And that's kind of where I see the investment really helping us hold our feet to the fire, right? Sometimes that is part of the biggest benefit of investing in yourself is that you're committed at this point. When you've put your
Mm-hmm.
credit card down, when you've booked something, like you're going to follow through. That's one of those steps that's really, really hard to take back. Sometimes you can't take it back. And so it kind of
Yeah.
forces that commitment versus just, I'll call and check it out. I'll see how it goes. But there's a reason that you put your credit card down, right? There's a reason that someone reached out to you. That woman is ready to throw up. There was something in her saying, you need to
Yeah.
do this. This is for
Yep.
you. And so
Mm-hmm.
putting that credit card is really just honestly that support behind you to say, you're in. We got this. Like, we're gonna get
Mm-hmm.
through this. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, walk me through this. I have not, full disclosure, I have not done a session myself. It is on the list and I know exactly who I'll be going to. But let's say I'm ready to reach out to you. I have no idea what to expect if I'm about to hire a boudoir photographer. So walk me through, what does that look like?
Yeah. So the first thing, if you're looking for boudoir photographers, you need to like really look at their work and make sure you vibe with it. Like, I mean, this is true about any photography. First, you need to make sure you like their work. Then you can reach out and, in my opinion, you need to get on the phone with them. Like, this is such a personal thing. You shouldn't just be emailing someone and then show up 6 weeks later in your underwear. Like, this is really personal. You need to make sure that like you vibe with them, that you're going to feel comfortable. So when someone reaches out, that is one of the first steps is getting on a call, making sure we're a good fit. And most importantly, walking through exactly what to expect. Because one of the biggest things that causes people to feel nervous is just feeling like they don't know what to expect. Like, oh my gosh, is she gonna like make me pose or do I pose? And what am I gonna wear? And where is this? And how long does it take? Just all those little questions. And so I just walk you through the whole process, just help you know exactly what to expect. And that's the first starting point to see if like we're a good fit. And then if someone wants to book from there, they can, put their session fee down to get on the calendar. And then it's official, man. Like you said, then you're in.
You're in, and yours is the whole 9 yards, right? So you are, like you said, helping people with posing. I believe you also offer suggestions or tips in terms of like, well, what is it that I'm going to wear? What am I doing here?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Like I literally
yeah.
try to make it as easy as possible for you to just make that commitment to yourself. I have hair and makeup covered. I have a personal stylist that can work with you one on one. She's amazing, by the way. So she'll handpick outfits for you if you're like, I don't even know where to start. Also I have local places, that I can recommend for people to shop at. I pose you and you don't have to like be a model. So yes, I'm trying to take away a lot of those fears that hold people back from feeling like they can trust me and go for it.
It's so clear that your goal is really all about kind of having this transformational client experience, both in terms of kind of the value that they get, but also really setting up an experience. Like, yes, they're getting the photos at the end of the day, but
Yeah.
there's an experience from the minute that they are on the phone call with you until they're watching those they're able to see those images that day to kind of to really cement in kind of what they did for that. So you are
Mm-hmm.
really crafting a customer experience. What, in your opinion, creates that like ideal or perfect or exceptional customer service experience?
Yeah. So for me, it's about trying to anticipate my clients' needs. I like really want to hone in and know where they're most nervous, what they're nervous about, and then try to be really intentional about putting things in place throughout the process that encourage them right when they think maybe they're going to cancel or like those little things that help them feel like this is not transactional but this is relational because I mean these women are trusting with me with something so personal, telling me their stories, letting me be a part of their journey. They become friends. They are more than just clients to me, and I want every part of that experience to feel relational, personal. I look for ways to incorporate personal details. I want their name on a welcome sign when they walk in so they know that I've been thinking of them, that I'm ready for them. All the way down to just other little things that help them know that again, this is relational. And I think that's what helps, part of what helps people feel so comfortable. People have told me, like, you just feel like a friend, but with a camera. And I'm like, that's exactly how it should feel. Because how can I expect someone to relax into something so out of their comfort zone? Like, we're only shooting for like 90 minutes. How can I expect someone to fully let their guard down in like 90 minutes if I can't convince them that I genuinely care about them as a person, you know?
Mhm.
And my heart is just so invested in this. I feel like it just kind of like comes out. But I really do think the personal details and anticipating their needs is one of those things that I've really focused on.
I love that. I think that works for just about any business where you're starting. If you're working with a client, a customer, whether they're buying products or services, you're
Yeah.
taking a look at where they are now and where you want to get them and what can you do to move them kind of from A to B. So you talked about starting super nervous and probably concerned about their body and the way they look, and then ending up where they feel like they're friends with you, where they're so comfortable, they're just literally stripping down in front of you, right? So
Yeah.
just how can I get them from A to B in ways that make them feel taken care of, protected, safe, whatever the feelings are that you really want to nourish in whatever business it is that you're fostering. I love that.
Yes.
I think that's so key. We are approaching our Thrive in 5 segment. So Lindsey, I would love to hear your Thrive in 5.
Oh, I'm excited to share it. When you told me that you do, then you wanted this, I was like, oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so here are some, I really tried to keep this practical and I really think these are powerful. So the first one is watching what you digest. We have to be more careful of what is on our feed. If your social media is full of fake women and AI and all that kind of stuff, like that's going to affect how you see yourself when you're naturally comparing yourself, which is so detrimental. So, really being careful who you're digesting. I would strongly encourage people to follow accounts that really are body positive, like for sure. Second tip is to stop using filters. Sometimes we just get into the habit of it here and there. Maybe it's just a touch up appearance on the Zoom call. Maybe it's more than that. I really think it's a disservice to us as women. And it just feeds into this feeling of like you constantly have to meet an ideal. So I encourage women to not use filters. So number 3 is one of my favorites. You won't be surprised. Encourage people to do little things for yourself, like wear lingerie, like just for you. Do it for you, like no special occasion. Even if you don't have a man in your life, who cares? Like I personally feel like I can take on the world if I have a matching brown panty set on. There's just something about it,
Amen.
and it just helps you feel good. So do like that for yourself, just because. Okay, tip number 4 is walk in front of a mirror naked. If you really want to be up for the challenge, I challenge you to do this daily. Like I have a mirror in our room, and when I make a habit to like walk by it. Like you don't have to like stand there and like inspect yourself. Like just make it a habit. This is called exposure therapy, technically.
The
But
therapist.
just make. What did you say?
From the therapist.
From a therapist. That's right. I did learn this from an actual therapist. So this is official. But yeah, just making that something where it's not like, oh my gosh, just that the little daily exposure to it is really, really good. That's something that I started doing for myself, and that helped me a ton. And I know that might scare people, but it's really powerful if you do it.
Mm.
And then my 5th tip is moving your body for joy, not punishment. Like really finding those physical activities, workouts, whatever it is that actually make you feel good. Like if you hate running, great, don't run. Like if you love yoga, do yoga. Like don't feel like you have to do a certain type of thing, because exercising again should be a celebration of what your body is capable of, not a punishment for what you ate. So in order to do that, you've got to find something that you genuinely like. And so I think that one is a really good one for sure.
I love that. Okay, so just to recap, we are watching what we digest. We are not talking about food because sexy is not a size. We are talking about all of the stuff that we are consuming in social media and all around
Mhm.
us. We are not using those filters anymore. They're not flattering. People know that we're doing it. We're going to get comfortable with how we look. We are going to start doing little things for ourselves, or wearing the lingerie for ourselves, or taking care of ourselves. We are going in that exposure therapy and walking naked in front of the mirror as we get ready every day, just bit by bit, so that we get more comfortable with how we look. And we are going to move our bodies in a way that we love and that brings us joy, not out of punishment, but out of pride for what we were able to accomplish. I love that. All right, Lindsey. Well, I hope people have been able to get a taste of your bubbly personality. She is such, I mean, I don't think she has to try to be a hype woman. She is the kind of person that's going to put a smile on your face when you walk in the room. She's so high energy. And I know that's the reason that her clients feel so comfortable working with her. So, Lindsey, if people want to connect with you, learn more about you, where should they go?
Yeah. So both my website and my Instagram handle are Beloved by Lindsey. So belovedbylindsey.com or on Instagram, Beloved by Lindsey. You can follow me there. I also have a sexy selfie guide that you can download. That is a freebie. If you've ever felt like, oh, I cannot take good photos of myself to save my life, you can kind of see a taste of what a session is like, because I literally teach you 3 poses. I tell you exactly how to set your camera, how to pose, everything. And you can take a couple cute, sexy selfies.
Ooh,
So I've got the sexy selfie guide.
love it. All right, guys, if you want to grab your sexy selfie guide, go find Lindsey at Beloved by Lindsey. And Lindsey is Lindsey, either at her website or on Instagram, so that you can get your sexy selfie guide. Lindsey, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me, Marcy.
Have a good one. Bye bye.